know you're ready. You're always ready. She's always ready. She's Ann Reinke. Thank you for coming and downloading and listening to No Bull Logistics. KNOW is what it is, right? And so I'm going to help you know the bull or spill the tea or whatever. Ann is a fantastic person, and I mean that with all sincerity. She is a great friend of mine. I love her to death, and anybody who meets her, better, or I'll hunt you down and gut you like a fish. Ann, how are you?
That introduction.
Did you like that? That was pretty good too, right?
Yeah, I did. I like that. That's great.
I don't know where that came from. I've been doing this like fasting thing, and I don't know.
You're just angry. You're hangry.
No, here's the crazy thing about it. It only took a couple, like maybe a week, and that the hangry's gone. It's like I look at food and I'm like, a lot of time, like, I don't know. I could do better. You know, it's like a filet mignon with a lobster tail. I'm like, I could get better.
I've had better. Can we cycle back to that? I know you have to ask me questions and stuff, but can we cycle back to your fasting?
We're going to talk. Hey, we may never even talk to the fact that you are now president and CEO of the Intermodal Association of North America, and that there's an expo coming up on the 17th. But we're going to talk about fasting for sure.
Yeah, let's talk about fasting, and then we can get to that. Yeah.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because mentally, it's making me sharper.
Really?
I remember things better. I remember things much better. Can you tell me
what your fasting pattern is? Because as you know, they're different kinds.
There are different kinds, and I'm total rookie just doing it off the cuff. I'm working out and everything else, trying to get rid of the visceral fat, you know, and I've been able to do it. I've been able to get rid of it, but I did it. All I did was one day I just quit eating.
Okay.
Just quit. See how many hours I could go. And I've gotten myself into this pattern where at least 3 times a week, I could do it every day. And I did it for every day, but then I started to feel really bad. I did it every day for 7 days. I only eat between the hours of 6 and 7 at night. That's it. I don't eat any other time. But I only do that like 3 days a week now, 3 or 4 days. So I'll have like something healthy for lunch, like an avocado and a tomato and a fried egg or something like that. That's it. But nuts, berries, that type of stuff. But I eat, just eat regular food that's healthy, right? I don't eat a Big Mac, but I will make myself smash burgers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like no food should really be off limit so much, but I do think the more you can prepare it, the better it is for you.
That's my rule is I prepare it. It's as processed. Ground meat is about as processed as I'll go. That's it.
Yeah, good for you.
And I attempt, right? I mean, I don't make my own hamburger buns, right? But you
don't have a cow in your backyard?
No, but I used to have 2 pigs. And I live like I am like Mr. Dad in suburbia. I live in Southland Point Homeowners Association, the whole thing. And I fought them and actually brought the Tennessee State Code for household pets and argued and got myself the right to have 2 potbelly pigs because in Tennessee they're considered household pets.
What do you do with those potbelly pigs? They just eat your grass?
You wait until they grow to about 100 pounds each, and then you give them back to a farm. That's what you do.
Can I give you some hot news from our neighborhood, and then we can get serious? So there's some hot news from our neighborhood. We have my neighbors down the street have this huge overgrown ravine behind them. It used to be owned by this old lady. Eventually she passed away. They bought it, but it's overgrown. It's crazy. So they hired about 30 goats and a llama because the llama is supposed to intimidate, I guess, the foxes. I'm not entirely sure who the llamas or people. Anyway, so those goats are eating at that ravine. They're renting these goats for 2 weeks, and those goats are just chewing their hearts out. Those guys really have a good work ethic.
You think they have a union? Is there a goat union?
I'm really impressed. It's a creative solution. You're an environmental guy. This is like the most environmentally friendly way of
I don't know. I
clearing
don't
their
know what.
ravine by.
I don't know about the methane production of goats. It may not be the best thing. I don't know. I do know that I'm staying away from a llama. They spit on you and stuff, man. They're
They
orange,
spit on you.
right?
I believe they're very, apparently they give you dirty looks, which give you
Well,
pause,
I'm used to that.
Oh, okay. You get
Come
a lot
on.
of those.
If I
Okay.
cringed from every dirty look, I wouldn't even be friends with you. Just kidding.
Oh, it's fun.
A
It's
llama,
fun.
but isn't like the donkey supposed to be like the guard dog of the farm?
Yes, I agree. I've seen that. A donkey with sheep for sure. And they do have
Yeah,
a few sheep, but I don't know why they have this llama instead of the donkey. I mean, both donkeys and llamas apparently are bad tempered. Maybe that's all it takes.
maybe it's like one of those. What isn't there a certain llama that they shave for the fur? Isn't there is it Angora or something like that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's
Maybe
right.
that's it. Maybe that's their side hustle is they shave. Well, you don't make stuff out of goat hairs. That doesn't make any sense.
Yes,
I
you
was
do.
thinking of
Mohair. Mohair. That's goat.
mohair is actually there's no such thing as a mow.
No, no, there's not.
Suddenly, Benny and the Jets make sense to me. Didn't Benny have a mohair suit?
Yeah, I believe you did.
I believe he did. And electric boots or something like
And
that.
electric boots. Although it's hard to understand what he's saying. Yes.
Well, I knew that I did actually know that Rocket Man was burning out his fuse up there alone. I did know that line before they put it on a commercial from
Okay.
Rocket Man. I did know that line. Well,
Michael
because I
Vincent, he gets the award. There it
self-claimed,
is.
self-claimed. No, I've sung the song before, so yeah. Anyways, who are you? Anyways,
Who are you? Why are you here?
why are you here? Why do you have a really nice big office? Why are you up on this? I don't know, fourth, fifth floor, or whatever the heck it is.
Yeah. So
And how
who
did
am
you get
I?
there after going to Wake Forest Law?
That's right. Let's just start at the beginning. No, do you
Yeah.
remember? This is for the old folks who are listening. Years ago, there was a man named Ross Perot who ran against. God, who was it? I don't even remember now. Was it
I don't
like
know,
Bill
but I
Clinton?
remember Ross Perot. I remember his
Yeah. So
campaign. I remember the whole
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
he ran against. I can't remember which election it was. I think it was Bill Clinton, but maybe not. And he had a vice presidential candidate named Admiral Stockdale, who
Oh
was a very
yeah.
distinguished individual. But his first debate, the vice presidential debate, he comes out, he says, "Who am I? Why am I here?" And everyone's like, "This guy looks like a madman." Anyway, they didn't win. Otherwise, we'd know more about them.
Yeah.
Uh, I am now the president and CEO of the Intermodal Association of North America, and I've been here since December 9th, so going on 9 months. Uh,
Wow. Look at
I
you.
know. I know. And Michael, you and I met when I was president and CEO of the Transportation Intermediaries Association, which is a terrific group who represent the 3PL industry. And I
Yeah.
did not think I was going to leave, but Ayanna gave me the proverbial offer I couldn't refuse. And so here I am at the cornerstone of the intermodal industry. And you know what it means, Michael, but do I
I
need to
do.
define it?
Yeah, we're gonna go through it because most people are thinking, wonder what that offer was like free rides on any train she wants.
Yeah.
Do you get to pull the horn on a train? Is that what she
I get to pull
got?
the horn. That's right. I get as
do
much.
you do you remember when they used to have cabooses and they used to have a
No,
brakeman in the caboose?
they got rid of those in like what was it 56? I mean, they got rid of
No,
them a
no, no,
lot.
no,
Not
no, no,
50.
no. They didn't. Come
74,
on.
74,
No.
80. Hold on, let's
Yeah.
look
Okay.
it up.
It
Let's
had
look
to
it
be
up.
into the 70s. I remember seeing them. I remember standing or sitting in the car waiting for that caboose so I could wave at the guy, and he was rarely ever there. The
All right,
brakeman.
I'm googling it because you and
And
I
it was
have that kind
George
of
H.
bridge.
W. By the way, this is who Ross Perot ran against. I
It
looked it up.
was George H.W. Okay. When did railroads get rid of the caboose?
Train history with Anne Reinke. The more you know. In the news.
Early to mid 1980s. You're right.
There you go. See?
You're right. Okay. widespread adoption of the end of train device replacing them by 1982, though some short-line tourist and work trains still use them for specialized purposes
So
today.
70. By the end of the 70s, they were pretty much phased
Yeah.
out. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. You're right.
yeah. That
Never
makes
disagree with
sense.
Michael again.
Hey, there you go. There's one sitting at Donnie Gilbert's. Remember Donnie Gilbert used to do on What the Truck and stuff like that. Donnie Gilbert.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
at Freightways, yeah. He's got one. He's got an old one
Oh,
sitting
nice.
outside his store. He owns a store in Chattanooga now. That's
That's
family.
cool.
Doesn't matter really. Yeah. What is so intermodal? But most people think intermodal trains, and they're. I mean, you can't really fault them because that is the big player that shows up. But intermodal means multimodal, right?
That's
I
right.
mean, it means a shipment it is going across more than one mode of transportation.
Exactly right. So you have the international intermodal, which requires an ocean carrier delivering containers to a port where a truck, a dray carrier, picks them up. They're the first mile, last mile, takes it to an intermodal yard where a railroad takes it all the way to wherever it needs to go, right? Or
Yeah.
you have domestic intermodal where it's a train to truck interface. But what we like to say, it's the highest and best use of each mode. And
Mm.
ultimately, where the marketplace is I guess we'll get into that. But we would love it if there were more market share for intermodal because we feel like it's environmentally sustainable, environmentally friendly, and also when we talk about how whether or not there is a driver shortage or whether there isn't a driver shortage, and that's a debate that rages and rages online, and I'm not going to get stuck my foot into that one, but
No.
there are certainly fewer drivers who want to go incredibly long distances than there used to be, perhaps. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so that's when the railroads really come in, and that's their utility there.
Yeah, the 1970s over the road cowboys image and reality isn't like it isn't the 70s anymore, right? It's not
No,
Rubber Duck and all those guys making that happen. Well, it used to be that way. I mean, that's what it was, man. They were outlaws and they were rolling. Now it's less of a blue collar type of job, right? I mean,
right, and I think you can actually well, I think there's been more people who don't have the tolerance for that kind of life because it may be that you're gone from your home for weeks, right? It takes you a week to get to where you need to go, and then you need to get a backhaul route. That'll take you another week to get back. I mean, that's a challenge for people who want to have
yeah,
a family and want to have a life and all of that stuff.
yeah, I think people figured out that the portrayal of how sexy it was in some of those movies wasn't actually real.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds isn't the one
yeah,
driving the truck. Yeah,
yeah. And that Camaro or whatever was a Trans Am.
Trans
Um,
Am,
yeah,
yes.
if you look up like the Trans Am, um, it went from like 0 to 60 in 9.5 seconds. And that's an actual fact. You can look that up. It was one of the slowest muscle cars ever built.
That's
I
funny.
mean, that whole movie is so bogus because that car was like it was just a dog. Anyways, it really was. And there's probably IROC fans out there going, oh no, it was a big
Yeah, don't
noisemaker.
hurt my
Is what
feelings. I
it was
know.
garbage. You bring out your IROC and I'll beat it with a Civic Si every day on Sunday. But we're not here to argue about muscle cars and Civic Si. So, um, but is intermodal within? I mean, domestically, it's what it is, but it encompasses everything. I mean, so the members are like barge operators?
So when you
Is that
think
considered
about
something,
yeah,
or
so we have about 1,000 members, and they're from 5
okay?
divisions, and so I'm gonna put my fingers out like a child so I can make
Right
sure I don't
on, do
forget
it.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have the Marine Division, which includes our ocean carriers and our ports and port terminals, right, and port operators. We have our Railroad Division, and that includes the Class 1 railroads and the short lines. We have our Motor Carrier Division, and that's your dray guys and gals. We
Mm-hmm.
have our supplier division, and that includes anyone who builds containers, who builds chassis, who builds all of those things. And then we have our 3PL division, and they're the ones who are selling sort of space on a railroad or space on a truck or what have you
Mm.
to the beneficial cargo owners.
Yeah, so for its truck on rail car or container on rail car, right,
Right.
is what that is. What? So I mean, it's intermodal, right? So how come it only goes towards? And maybe you don't know the answer. Maybe it's just because it's the way it always been. Why aren't motor carriers in there?
Well, motor carriers are, but it's
But
really the
as
first.
drayage, though, right? I mean,
Yes, that's
so
right. First mile, last mile. Yeah.
yeah, which makes sense because those are the ones that interact with the rail. It's, I mean,
Yeah,
that type of
exactly. I
stuff.
mean, they're the ones who
Yeah.
go into the yards, the intermodal yards. They're the ones who go into the ports. And so they, that's sort of their bread and butter, right? That
I,
kind of interchange between either the ocean
right.
carrier or the railroad or just the railroad itself.
So do carriers still push to try and have the Twix cars to get inside the ports to do their own pull instead of using a drayage to get out to a warehouse and that type of stuff? Is there still that or
I mean,
no?
I think the TWIC card sort of overtook all of us, right? I mean, I don't know, I don't know enough differently to tell you that, but I think everyone sort of acceded to the wishes of the TWIC card.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, interesting. What's your favorite part of the intermodal?
What is my favorite part of the intermodal?
Yeah, yeah.
Gosh, that's a great question, Michael. I'm going to have to be really thoughtful in my
You thought this was going to be easy. I throw some hardball questions.
you do.
Yeah.
So I guess what I like about it is A, it's not just one mode,
Yeah,
and but it's a really critical component of the railroads, but a really critical component of the ocean carriers, with a really critical component of the motor carriers, and they all have to collaborate in order to succeed. And that has become more critical than ever that they do collaborate. And why? Well, a couple things I mentioned. I sort of alluded to market share. We need to
yeah,
grow our market share, and if we are collaborating, we are more successful, is my opinion, and I think it's shared
right.
by many, right? But also
Yeah,
because of things like cargo theft and other security concerns, making sure that we're successful in collaboration there, so there's information exchange and that kind of thing. And then I would say too that the data that we all can collect and the sort of the visibility around how each mode does is also important. We're not there yet, but I think in terms of getting that kind of visibility across the modes is going to be kind of the next step towards even greater success.
yeah. Is getting that visibility pretty hard because you're dealing with a lot of international companies?
Yeah, I think
Is that what makes it harder?
what's challenging is, this, the railroads are real old and the ocean carriers are real old, and they've been around a long time, and they've developed their own systems, and so they
Yeah,
may have within their own networks, they may have the visibility, but it's sort of like this is their proprietary information. They're not sharing it across, and they can't necessarily speak to one another, if that makes sense.
yeah. They
When
don't.
and they don't. When you think about a 3PL, because so many of them are of recent vintage, so to speak, because the industry really didn't take off until about 45 years ago, because that's when the deregulation occurred and sort of the brokerage industry took place. A lot of those folks do keep up with the newer technology and do adapt and do look out for, all right, how can I make my customers on the one side and my carriers on the other side comfortable with the visibility and where we are and all that stuff, obviously
Mm,
protecting it because of cargo theft and things like that, and fraud. But I because you have these old line industries, I'm not sure there's that approach yet. I think we probably will get there though.
it occurs to me, a lot of, and I've had this argument, not even really an argument. I bring it up and people go, oh yeah, you know what? If you think about it, he's right. And I'm not saying it's my idea, but I say it more than I see it. Is that barrier to entry is really the root of most of the evils in surface transportation. Truck over the road, not surface, but truck over the road, because surface includes everything that goes on the surface, which would also be rail. But is it the lack of that causes also a lack of innovation? I mean, you don't just go, oh, I'm going to buy a ship and start calling
Yeah,
on
you don't just
ports.
say I'm going to develop. I'm going to make my own railroad. I mean, you can.
And we ought to do that.
Let's just make our own railroad. Let's do it.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're exactly right. There's you can look on GoFundMe all day long. Nobody's starting a railroad, which
Yeah,
is
it's
sad.
extremely challenging. I mean,
Yeah,
talk to any of the passenger rail advocates who want to have additional rail for any route in the United States. They recognize it is incredibly it's expensive to buy right of way. B, the permitting process. I mean, this is a problem and something that IANA is certainly advocating to reform. The permitting process is just additional layers of cost and time, and it's almost indefensible in some cases.
yeah,
And then, the equipment and all of that. I mean, it's incredibly expensive proposition. And so, railroads want to run safely, they want to run efficiently, and all of that. So they're putting a lot of money in capex and into maintenance, but that means that sort of has been historically their focus,
yeah.
and not necessarily, okay, let's adapt to whatever TMS system has this kind of integration with these APIs and that kind of thing, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's purely maintenance and efficiency from a bottom line standpoint, not necessarily having to worry too much about losing top line in certain areas, right?
right. I don't mean to be dismissive of their technology overtures. That's not my point. But my point is, historically, that has been the focus. And I think
Right.
as they get, as we all adapt to AI and innovation and all of that stuff, that changes. It's just that I think there's some companies who are smaller and nimbler, like,
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
example,
yeah.
3PL, that are kind of ahead of the game.
I always wondered why air cargo is one as well, which most people, many people probably wouldn't think they'd lump it in there, but I do. And ships as really obvious for autonomous operation. I mean, there's just not that much. I mean, there's a lot of things that come. I don't want to, because I love the railroad safety. We used to love doing the railroad safety week and all that kind of stuff. And I learned that there's a little blue sign and you got the number there and you could call that in anytime and they're all marked and all that kind of stuff. I also know that if I see one coming at me and it starts to derail, I should run towards it at a 45-degree angle is the safest way to get out of the situation. Did you
Wow.
know that?
I've never tried it. So no.
I've never had to, and I doubt that I'll remember it as I'm filling my pants while one is derailing in front of me. But it just seems to me that they would be easily a great place to autonomize the operation
Well,
because
it's
of
so
the way
interesting you
they
say
run.
that, because I think there it's, for whatever reason, the public perception of AV trucks seems people seem more comfortable with that, right? Because we're doing a lot of work in that area.
I just don't see any point in it. That's
Well,
my
that's
objection
interesting.
to it.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I want to hear your
what's
thoughts
the
on
end
that.
game?
The contrast is there is a public perception and indeed a regulation that would prohibit fewer than two in a locomotive, which is on a fixed guideway. Arguably, it can't veer out of the way to avoid, right? I mean, it's sort of,
It
it
can't
is
even
what it
stop.
is.
Even if it sees an issue coming, it physically can't stop to
Yeah, it
do
takes
it.
a mile to stop. Now, there's positive train control, which also enhances its sort of automatic braking
Sure.
systems and all that sort of thing. But for whatever reason, there has been this, and I know some of them, but there's been this public perception that two in the cab is safer than one, which is not necessarily borne out by the data. I mean, the same thing
Yeah.
with aviation. You know this. I mean, much
Sure.
of what is happening up there is on autopilot,
Yeah.
but for
No,
whatever reason.
the pilot does very little except monitor.
Yeah, and so for whatever reason, I mean, I don't know if you feel this way, but you think, oh, well, two is safer than one in the cockpit, right?
I've seen airplane, and I don't think that's true. I don't know. Leslie Nielsen in the cockpit's not making me feel better about things. But no, and that's my thoughts as well. It's like, okay, like drone ships as well. It's like, well, duh, why not drone ships? Kind of makes sense. Then you show up with the harbor pilot and put the crew on to unload it and let it rock and roll. It seems, but I don't know all the operations that are out there. I'm just saying from autonomous vehicles, the arguments that I see for autonomous vehicles and the and the explanation of why certain things are being tested in certain areas is laughable
Tell
to
me
me.
more why you think that. Tell me more about that.
Well, because okay, so and I forget the number. I think it was Kroger's was the customer, and I forget now who the robotics company was that was doing the autonomous vehicles. But in Dallas, they were doing a test or whatever it was, and it was, oh, it's going to reduce the carbon footprint, and it's going to improve the shopper's experience, the customer's experience. And I'm thinking, okay, there's nothing that you can tell me that would make me believe that the consumer's costs are going to go down and their experience is going to be better because the deliveries to a grocery store are coming off of an autonomous vehicle. And the way their data was presented, it actually, they were smaller trucks, which doubled the number of routes that had to be run. So they actually
Interesting.
doubled their carbon footprint, and reduced their efficiency by 50% just because of that. That's 50% less efficient, period. I don't know what else to tell you. It's twice as many trucks
Yeah, yeah.
and
So half
maintenance and
the
everything else.
labor, but twice the trucks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm like, okay, so how does this, it just makes no sense. And if there were, and I don't even bring up the driver shortage to me, because if you're arguing a point right or left or up or down or positive or negative or surplus or a deficit, it can't be driven by two sides who benefit from their argument. Okay, and that's all that is. The side that's arguing there is no shortage of drivers benefits from that, and the side that argues that there is benefits from the fact that they say that there is. There's no you know what I'm saying. There doesn't seem to be an objective
Yeah,
position
I mean, I
out
don't
there.
know. It's fascinating. I would say this, it's almost like a mismatch going back to the earlier point. So that's where I'm
Yeah,
going to stake my pole in the sand, is that there is a mismatch perhaps of those who want to have certain kinds of jobs, and I would argue again, and they
yeah.
don't want the long haul over the road stuff.
I agree. And so, but see, the thing is, the obvious answer would be then to introduce the AV in those long haul and work with the international, the interstate system, et cetera, for, center lanes that just take those and they just go. And I mean, there were several companies that did that. All they did was they worked, and I forget what the name of those guys were, but I thought it was brilliant. They were running yards just outside of cities where their drivers would take the autonomous loads and do the manned delivery within the city, and then drop off the outbound loads and then run it just AV between the two long haul points, which makes sense. And if we were building that, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But it seems to me that AV is like is a lot like a blockchain. It's just like, oh, we got this cool potential new technology. Let's start building it and convince people there's a problem to solve.
Mm.
Because driver safety and truck safety has not improved because of it. And that's the obvious thing. All these technologies and all these sensors and everything all over these trucks and everything can improve safety. Sure. It pull this leg, it plays jingle bells. Of course it can, but that's not the point. Safety isn't the point, right? That's why, anyways, that's my humble opinion. And I hope I didn't offend you.
I'm not offended. I am HO in my humble opinion. I'm learning the I'm learning the stuff, the text speak.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I get now that why TIA to IANA, right? Because you said there's that intermodal part or the intermediary part is big. It's one of the five pillars
That's right.
inside IANA, which is interesting. We haven't even gotten to what the market looks like for intermodal in the United States. I mean, so it's rails versus trucks, et cetera. Different rates and tariffs and all that kind of thing have to be wreaking havoc on the business. Is business up because of rates, or does it? How impactful are or have you seen over the road rates impact your constituents, your memberships business? How Because when I was at Freightways, I would look at this and go, oh, rates are coming down, therefore they're going to take volume off of the rail and it would go back. Is it really that fluid between the two?
Yeah, I would say so. I wish Intermodal was the kind of controller of its own destiny, but there are these exterior impacts that have a profound influence. And one of
Yeah,
them is what the market rate is for over the road trucking. And as we all know, there's been excess capacity in that sector for a good long time now, ever since the peak of COVID, shopping frenzy, which was what 2023 was really the peak. And ever since
yeah,
there's been this decline. And the other kind of exterior factor that is not in we're not in control of is the tariff scene. And
yeah,
so while the first quarter there was a lot of front loading of inventory, and so the kind of uh, volumes we had and our success was pretty good. And even in July, we had a couple of ports get bam, just barraged with freight again because of the suspension of tariffs. However, what that means, I think, is that there's no fall peak because there's been so much kind of front loaded, and so the rest of the year is probably looking pretty flat.
oh wow, 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 wow.
And I would say one other thing
But
is
that makes sense, right? And this is not coming to a shock to a lot of your right. So there was some, I would think, some intelligent planning, hopefully.
yeah, and I think too
Yeah,
part of that intelligent planning is refraining from enormous expenditures that you can't justify with volume or business. And that's unfortunate, right? If you any business person worth their salt responds to market conditions, and if the market conditions are uncertain, and they have been this entire year because of A, the kind of international the tariff scene, and B, the capacity in the marketplace, you're not going to make huge investments on spec. You're going to make them because they make sense.
well, and you say respond to market conditions, and it takes me back to my early trainings, um, which unfortunately was right after they took away the cabooses. That's how far back I go, but
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Nice.
yeah, was understanding the cycles and understanding in where I was at Roadway Express, almost 1,000 neighborhood terminals across the United States. It was very specific. So the cycles in central Pennsylvania were not the same as the cycles in Ontario, California, and not the cycles as same as Little Rock, right? So your terminal and your region's cycles, you documented everything every single day, and you had sheets and sheets of it. So you could go through and predict what was happening, and you had the ability, or were expected to, and taught how to take current events and things and put it into there and use your brain to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
What's going on. And that's reacting just to the market isn't really it. Understanding that there is a peak season and understanding traditionally and understanding what's going on right now, like in July, and then going, okay, we usually do this in September and October, etc. Probably not going to be that because of this, and you make those intelligent things. That's what you're talking about, right? Not just reactive,
Yeah,
but
that's right. And I hope it's not volatile next year. I mean, that's like hoping for a wave to, catch a wave upon the sand, as they say. But I tend to think it will be. But we'll see. This is the sort of nerdy constitutional lawyer side of me is excited about this case that will probably go to the Supreme Court about whether or not this administration can use emergency powers to impose tariffs.
right.
So maybe that'll all be over
And
by
that's
then.
from and it's from an instability standpoint, right? I
That's
mean that. I
exactly right.
mean, yeah, and I would think that even those who like the philosophy behind the tariffs can understand that it's the volatility it's causing that is the issue,
That's exactly right. That's
right?
exactly right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think it's affecting a lot of different kinds of, it has these tertiary effects that you don't notice until you notice. And I think here's a great example. So the capex that I talk about, that means that there's a warehouse that may not get built that was supposed to provide 40, 50 jobs in
Yeah.
a certain district, right? And we all know that the jobs kind of the leverage used to be employee had the leverage versus employer, and that's not the case right now.
Nah. Mm-mm.
Right? I mean, the employer
Yeah.
has the leverage, and people are sort of clinging onto their jobs because they're not sure if they can get another one. And
They don't
so there
have
you
any
go.
leverage. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And that's a drastic change for a certain level of employee uh, from the last 5 years.
that's exactly right.
I mean, when you were at TIA, people were jumping and they were going from frontline, just started brokering to like director of operations at a new place and making tons of money because you couldn't fall down without booking 20 loads a day, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about, we had members saying, please, can you do like a job board? I'm desperate to hire.
Yeah.
Can you advertise? And like, we didn't do that, but I mean, that was what the conversation was. Like, how are we
Yeah.
going to get new talent? How are we going to recruit more people? Because we're not
And
getting it.
now that talent's going, where am I going to get a job?
Exactly right. That's
And
exactly
it,
right.
and you know it goes even further because you touched on it. It goes even further. Like you're talking about the warehouse being built, and the jobs are obviously incredibly important and probably the most important in my mind because it's the social impacts that really matter and should matter to every company. Hello, responsible capitalism is actually something you should worry about, but it also creates huge inefficiencies within our logistics, right? Because you just like you talk about, you have this huge influx of imports to beat this, and then the tariffs don't get implemented, right? So you just wasted a butt ton of money to plan for something that didn't happen, right? But then if it does happen, there's certain people who are hedging and going, well, it's probably not going to happen because the last 5 times it just got extended. But then this one actually does happen, and then they're caught with their pants down, so to speak, et cetera. And there's just all these other inefficiencies that hold back the industries and the progress. And my opinion is you sit in a position that is essential and important to the security of the United States and to the economy. Diana is that important. The work that is done there by its members, if accepting that responsibility is too heavy for your shoulders, which I don't think it is.
It is not.
But you know what I'm saying? I don't know
Yeah.
what your thoughts are on that at all. But
Well, I mean, so this is not the sexy stuff, but it's kind of the critical stuff. So so much, and it's like the unheralded heroes. But we facilitate what's called the Uniform Intermodal Interchange Agreement, and that agreement allows for an efficient use of equipment that the drivers understand the conditions of use, the ocean carriers understand the conditions of use, the chassis providers understand the conditions of use, and the railroads understand the conditions of use. And so, what if you have the same rules of the road that all of those parties understand it? And oh, by the way, they don't have to sign 150 different agreements with 150 different motor carriers or different ocean carriers or different railroads. They have this one agreement that they understand what the rules of the road are. That's enormously beneficial to all of the fluidity that goes on, when you talk about the supply chain starting overseas and coming into the United States. And so one of those things you think about, this is kind of on our shoulders, because without that, I can't even imagine sort of the inefficiency of where the container is, who fixes it when it's, been damaged, how it actually gets to where it needs to go, all of that stuff. And so we take that responsibility very seriously.
yeah, because if each provider had to provide their own infrastructure throughout the entire U.S. and world, because these are global entities, the efficiencies would be awful,
Yeah,
right?
well, and then there's no competition. If we had that, then there is no competition with over the road trucking, because it would be too cumbersome to deploy intermodal, right? So it's kind of one of those like wonderful little secret things that actually help the supply chain without like calling attention to itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's the big um, What's the big thing you guys are working on? Is there a big thing that you're working on, or is it like
Yeah, there's a couple things.
the million little very very important things that you're working on?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
because
No, I
it's
would
it's
say
almost like when you ask that question, if there's not a big thing, then you're really not that important, and that's not the case at all. I don't want to
I
imply that
know.
at all. But
So they hired me, Michael, after their leader was here for 27 years. The organization's 34 years old. And she did a fabulous job of building up this organization. She, spearheaded this UIIA I just spoke of, and really created a very robust organization that is known to be an industry leader. They hired me because they wanted to have a far more external facing presence. There just isn't enough people. You know it because you're a transportation nerd, right? You've been in transportation for 35 years, but not that many people do. And in order to understand the benefits of intermodal, you can't understand them if you don't know about them. So, it's kind of like the line from The Breakup where he's taking Chicago by air, land, and sea. So, really, what we're trying to do is develop an advocacy arm. So we're hiring a vice president of government affairs, really take in-house our data collection. We do collect a lot of data and kind of expanding on that. So now we have a director of economics. We're undergoing a PR campaign to really understand what the research shows about why beneficial cargo owners may or may not use intermodal, why the ones who do use it and why the ones who don't use it. And that can really shape and hone our message as we seek to increase our market share. And then ultimately, we want to have a bigger education presence so that we do have, when the jobs are not as ample as they are today, but we have that next generation coming along who understands the supply chain and the importance of intermodal.
yeah, excellent. I love it. I love it. So all right. I'm going to ask you about your upcoming event, but I have one question I want to ask you before that. So this one's
Yeah.
going to tax your brain a little bit. Maybe,
Okay.
maybe
God
not.
help
Maybe
me.
you'll just go, oh, this is more of a not personal, but so okay. President CEO. If you could walk into any one of your or one of your members, right? What would you pull the I'm the president CEO card to do that job or to mirror somebody? Is there a job out there you go, man, that would be fun to go learn that, to go do that? Like drive a
Instead of
train.
doing what I'm doing
Be
today?
not just for a day, like I mean, like
Oh.
in president. So you could go in there and you could just say, hey, look, I'm gonna run this. See, like would you go run like a gantry crane? Or would you go run what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is there some, because I mean, you're in this business and you're in this business, you're highly intelligent, you're really good at what you're doing, but there's also that certain amount of little kid love to play with trucks and toys in it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. So
Yeah. I mean,
that's in there.
so the practical side of me would say, okay, where are there gaps? Where could I really you know, benefit? And I think if I look at, like, I was just visiting one of our members, a railroad, a couple weeks ago, and they showed me their dispatch center.
Yeah.
And you see all these screens up here, and you see all these people down there trying to figure out how to, move the block and sort of respond to the conditions on the ground and all that stuff. That would be enormously helpful to understand, and doing that not just at a railroad, but doing it really at any op center of any of our, like, ocean carriers or motor
Yeah.
carriers, so I can really see it, kind of like that's the ground floor of how these things work at the op center. So that's sort of the
Yeah.
practical side of me. Like, that's where I could really benefit, and understanding how everything kind of gets determined and
Yeah.
decided.
Yeah. So you'd be there standing at NORAD or whatever it is, or or like in
Yeah.
Houston, failure is not an option. You'd be Gene Kranz. You'd be that.
Well, I mean, so you think about companies, and there are companies like that, UPS, for example, where they make every single person who works for the company be a company driver for a day. So they can really
Sure.
understand from the kind of the all the way from the bottom to the top, what that company means and what the culture is. And I think that's really beneficial. I mean, you cannot understand everything, right? But it definitely helps
Yeah.
you in practice and practical knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to hook up doubles, which took me about 4 hours. Um, and then I had to drive them from Toledo up to Detroit, take them around the city, and then drive them back, which went fantastically, except I blew past the way station twice.
Oh, whoops.
And the
You
safety
got a
agent
violation?
goes, yeah, the
Ah!
thank you. safety manager was like, "You got to stop." And I said, "I'm empty." He goes, "They don't know that." I was
You
like,
don't know that,
"Okay,
Michael.
that's a good point. That's a really good
Yeah,
point. They have no
yeah.
idea I'm empty." Maybe the fact that I blew by at 85 gave them a hint, but I don't know. That is funny. So you got an expo coming up. What's going on?
Okay, so it's next week, if you can believe it. And this
Yeah,
is
because
what
I'm
they
going to cut this part out, and it's going to go out there, and you guys are not going to believe how many tickets you're going to sell.
Oh my god, I love that. Okay, so let's do it. So it's
Let's do
like
it.
it's intermodal Christmas is really how we describe it, or intermodal speed dating is another way to describe it, because there's literally everybody in the intermodal space together in one place in Long Beach, California, from September 15th through the 17th. And so, what does that mean? If you need to talk to a customer, a vendor, a supplier, someone who you have a beef with, a competitor, they're all going to be there. And so, what
Wow.
happens is, we provide education, but we provide plenty of time for networking, on our expo floor and then outside of the expo at receptions and things like that, because we know that people need to talk to each other. And so, we don't have education all day. We have a half the day basically, and so it really provides that opportunity for folks to have meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, which in
Yeah.
fact is what they do. This is a working meeting. These are not people who are relaxing around playing golf all day. These are people who are literally going to every meetings, and so our education then hones in on the issues that they care about. So cargo theft is obviously a huge one. We have the former DEA administrator, Ann Milgram, speaking to us, which will be fascinating because our contention is much of this cargo theft is driven by cartels, drug cartels. So having that connection made, I think, will be enormously beneficial to our audience. So we have sessions on cargo theft, we have sessions on AI, we have sessions on mergers and acquisition, and that is kind of a big topic of conversation across the supply chain as well. And so then you'd have an opportunity in the afternoon to just do all the stuff on the expo floor and in your meeting rooms, et cetera, that we provide. And so I'm excited about that opportunity because we want business to get done, but we also want people to learn and have the kind of confluence of events that occurs when you're in person at an event.
Fantastic. If I went, would I have the opportunity to go across the street to that little Irish pub there and have some fish and chips and a Guinness? That place is
You know
awesome.
what? I
You know
just
what I'm
went
talking
there.
about, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I went there when the last time I was in Long Beach. I went to that place. It's pretty good.
The shepherd pie is killer, by the way.
Shepherd pie is so heavy.
Yeah, well, you know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. It
I
was
like
it was
that. I
it was a maritime conference. I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah, what are
nothing
you
like.
gonna do? You gotta eat
There's,
shepherd's pie.
you got. I mean, it's not light. I mean, you walk around and there's guys in double-breasted black suits with top hats and monocles. You know what I mean? They all look like the
That's funny.
Monopoly guy.
That's funny. Yeah. So maybe next year, Michael, we'll get you to be out there with us, and I'm excited about it. Again, I've been in the past. I've been, I think, about 3 times. When I was with CSX and then at TIA, but I have never been as the head of the organization. So it'll be a learning experience for me as well.
Well, it'll be fantastic. I can't wait to have you on again and watch what you do there because TIA was tremendous and I count you as a very good friend and I love that and I thank you for coming on the show, Ann.
Hey, thank you.
You're welcome. Everybody, peace and love. Till next time.